Hello and welcome back to Bookish theories. In today's video I would like to talk about CIX's Wave, focusing on a little breakdown and analysis of the lyrics and the music video to see how the song is connected to their storyline and concept. Wave is a song that portrays the difficult journey of a group of people that need to overcome the rough waves in order to reach a future of freedom. Now, as I mentioned in my trailer video, this is a song that continues to explore the divine comedy concept that CIX introduced all the way back in their debut. This is a poem divided into 3 books where Dante undergoes a spiritual journey through hell, purgatory, and paradise, and if in Jungle the boys portrayed their journey in hell and in cinema introduced their dream of paradise, this time around Wave shows us the beginning of their new journey towards the land of purgatory. Now, in the original work, Purgatory is a location where the souls arrive in order to atone their sins, repent, and reflect on their mistakes in order to achieve ultimate redemption. Much like what we see in the video, Purgatory is portrayed as a gigantic mountain set on an island in the middle of the sea that the penitents have to climb in order to purify themselves and being granted access to paradise. The lower level of this mountain is called Anti-Purgatory, the 7 terraces in the middle are each reserved to one of the deadly sins, and on top of the mountain we can find the Garden of Eden, which is the location where the penitents have to arrive in order to get to heaven. As we saw back in the trailer, the penitents usually arrive to the island on a boat driven by an angel, but in Wave we see that the boys are not using the same route because in the story the journey that they're undergoing is most similar to Dante's than to that of a regular soul. You see, in the Divine Comedy, Dante is the only one who can move from hell to purgatory to paradise, and this is because he's undergoing his journey while he's still alive and he's supposed to go back to the living in order to tell what he saw. If the people that he meets are all dead and experiencing the afterlife according to what they did in life, Dante has the role of an observer, and in the video this idea is conveyed with an astronaut landing in this new realm from the heavens. Now, even if at first glance this character may seem a bit out of place, in reality this imagery is very fitting because much like an astronaut, Dante and the boys are explorers that come from somewhere else and are going on a quest into the unknown. In the song, however, the boys explain the goal of their journey because in the lyrics they tell us that they're going against the rough fate in order to renew it because they believe in a future of freedom. Now, these lines here are actually very important because with these lyrics, CIX are not only telling us the whole point of the song, but also the main goal of their story as a whole. As I mentioned earlier, Purgatory is a place where people go to atone their sins, so like in the song, the whole idea is to achieve a spiritual rebirth that allows you to purify yourself and literally reset all the mistakes that you made in your life. By going against the rough fate, that is, by atoning the sins that led them to their sad destiny, the souls of the penitents have the chance to achieve redemption and change their fate for the better. In the Divine Comedy, this is a process that will eventually lead people to free themselves from sin, so the future of freedom that the boys are singing about is not just a future where they can do whatever they want, but rather a future where they're free from the pain of the past and can start again as new individuals. Now, if you consider what we see at the end, this concept is very important to understand the story as a whole because as we see in the video, Wave is connected to the events that took place all the way back in the storyline of A Lost Strange Place. Back then, Youngie played a character that decided to end his own life as a result of constant bullying, and while the other members were entirely responsible for this tragedy, they either tried to help him in the worst way possible, ignored his pain, or were too busy dealing with their own problems to help him instead. At the end of Wave, however, we also see that this event also managed to bring them all back together, and this is very important because when they were in hell, they were being punished by themselves and had to suffer alone. Now instead, they overcome the storm by working together, so this new journey foreshadows that the answer to rewrite their destiny eventually lies in their unity, and this idea is coherent with Dante's journey as well. You see, by going through hell, purgatory, and paradise, Dante not only sees what happens to others, but he learns to empathize with others by witnessing what pain and sorrow does to people. Only when he sees all the horrors of hell he can move up to purgatory, and only after he sees all the pain of purgatory can eventually enter paradise. So his journey is the journey of humanity as a whole, because the only way to free yourself from pain is to face it all and overcome it. Now, the idea that this new stage of the story is a follow-up to what we saw back in Jungle is actually foreshadowed in this scene right here, where we see Songun emerging from a manhole in the middle of the beach. This is a reference to the actual method that Dante uses to escape the Inferno, because in the story Dante emerges from hell by crawling out of an underground tunnel. Despite the difficult journey that is ahead of them, however, at the beginning it's pretty clear the CIX are not really understanding the severity of the situation, because while we see the members getting ready in different ways, we also see them having fun together and playing around. Much like in the original, where Dante is relieved to have escaped hell and experiences a moment of happiness by seeing the dawn of a new day, the initial focus of the video is on the hopes and dreams that this new journey actually entails. As we see in the video, their attention is not so much on the process itself, but rather on the final destination, and this idea is conveyed with the focus on le stelle, which is a sign that translates into the stars. Now, as I mentioned in my previous video, this sign is much more important than what it seems, because in the Divine Comedy, the stars are a literal sign that represent the final goal of Dante's journey. In the original poem, all books end with this word, and with Dante looking up at the stars, so this sign symbolizes the direction that the boys have to take, because as we saw all the way back in the leader film, this is a quest upwards that will eventually lead them to the light. All of this process is basically a metaphor for an inner journey that results into enlightenment, and while accomplishing this task is easier said than done, the solution to this problem is not to be afraid, don't give up, and rely on one another in order to ride the rough wave. This message is very clear in the lyrics, but in the video they only understand it when they are in the middle of the storm, because at the beginning this journey is initially taken as an ideal quest where food is always abundant and they can be lazy while someone else is pulling the weight. As we see in this scene right here, however, the boat doesn't go anywhere unless all of them do their own part in order to get to their destination, and this concept is further reinforced when the storm surprises them in the middle of a sunny day. You see, even if they escape the Inferno, this doesn't mean that their journey is becoming any less difficult, because now more than ever they have to prove that their intentions to redeem themselves are genuine. If hell is all about punishment without any possibility of redemption, Purgatory is all about working to change yourself for the better, so those who are granted access to it do so because they actually prove that they deserve it. These are people who have the chance at changing their fate, but this process is very hard and painful, so the boys have no time to relax and enjoy the ride, because this ride is meant to be difficult as the destination must be earned. Now, this concept is also referenced with yet another sign that we can see in the garage. The sentence "fa che lavi quando sei dentro queste piaghe" is a quote from chapter 9 that means "once you are inside, may you wash away these wounds." Now, this sentence actually refers to a moment where Dante is about to enter Purgatory but falls asleep because he is too tired by his journey in hell. This is a scene that is also referenced in the video with BX falling asleep on the ground, and in the original story Dante is visited by an angel that carves 7 P's on his forehead. These 7 P's actually stand for the 7 deadly sins that the penitents have to atone in the terraces of Purgatory, but if the sinners only have to atone their own sin, Dante has to atone all of them, because each wound will disappear only when he enters the specific terrace that is assigned to that sin. As I mentioned earlier, Dante's journey is the journey of all humanity, so the wounds that he has to wash away are the wounds of humanity as a whole. He has to share the suffering of all, because only by understanding all the pain he can free himself from sin, and the same idea can be applied to CIX, because in this journey they have to help one another and carry each other's burden to achieve ultimate redemption. If at the beginning they were focusing on their own task, when they're facing the storm, all of them have to worry about each other and help each other in order to overcome the rough wave, and only by doing that they can begin the redemption, because they essentially prove that they deserve it. You see, by caring about each other, they started their journey to change their destiny, and if we consider what we see at the end, this might imply that by redeeming themselves, they might actually change the events that led Youngie to kill himself. If back in Hello Strange Places death couldn't be avoided because none of the others were there for him, now things are starting to change. This time around, the boys are working together, and this allows their spiritual rebirth to finally begin. Now, this idea is also reinforced by the scene of the dolphin, because even if in the original work the dolphin is an animal that is associated to the souls trapped in the Inferno, on a more general level the dolphin is an animal that represents rebirth. These visuals here might imply that by atoning their sins in Purgatory, the boys might actually have a chance at resetting their mistakes and bringing Youngie back to life. This task, however, can only be accomplished if they don't lose sight of their destination, and as I mentioned earlier, the destination is revealed by the stars, which is also a symbol that connects the afterlife to the mortal world that the boys will eventually return to. This idea is also reinforced by the sentence that we see on the side of the boat, because assertion sempre li tuoi raggi duci is a quote that literally translates into "your race should always be our guide." This is Virgil talking to the sun as he wishes for its light to always guide their path in Purgatory, so even if by the end we see that their journey has just begun, now we know that the only way to fix their mistakes is to stick together and always rely on the light to lead them through the darkness and towards a new life. So that's it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye bye!